All right, today's lesson is called Finding Equations for Lines Notes. We're going to be taking information in various forms and writing an equation for a line in y equals mx plus b form. Remember, y is the, x and y are just points, m is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. So for question 1, it says find the equation of a line with a slope of 3/4 and a y-intercept of -2. And I want you to write it in this format. So the y-intercept, that's the b, and the slope, that's the m. So this equation becomes y equals 3/4 x minus 2. Very easy just to insert the y-intercept and the slope into the equation. For number 2, I'm given the slope again, and I'm given the point 0.5. Well, if you think about the point 0.5, it is right there on the y-axis. So 0.5 is also the y-intercept. So again, this will be pretty easy, right? The equation is y equals mx plus b. So I replace m with the slope, -2/3, and the y-intercept is 5. I just write 5. Okay? So if I give you the y-intercept or if I give you the point, it's pretty easy to write the equation. Now, for number 3, it gets a little harder. Okay, it says find the equation of a line with a slope of 1/2 that goes to the point 2,5. 2,5 is not the y-intercept. Okay, the y-intercept has to be something like 0.5. So this is not the y-intercept, but what it is a point xy. So I'm going to replace x and y in the equation with that point. And I'll replace the slope with 1/2. So here's my first equation, y equals mx plus b. The slope is 1/2. I don't know the y-intercept, so I'm going to write that out here, plus b. I do have an x and a y, because that's this point, xy. So the x is 2, put that here. I'll write it in parentheses to keep it separate. And the y is 5, so I put that here. So now I just solved this equation for the y-intercept b. So 1/2 of 2, and what you do when you multiply by a fraction by a number is you make the second fraction, or second number a fraction, just multiply straight across. So 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 1 is 2. So it's 2/2. Of course, 2/2 is the same as 1. So now I could just subtract 1 from both sides to solve for b, and I get 4. So now I have the slope as 1/2, and I solve for the y-intercept, it's 4. So my equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 4. So if I don't give you the y-intercept, you can find it by plugging in every other number in the equation for y and m and x, and then just solve the equation for b. Here's another example, number 4, same idea. So I have the equation y equals mx plus b. Slope is 2, so that's the m. This point is not the y-intercept, but it is a point xy. So I can replace -4 for x, and I can replace -3 for y, and the b just stays there. So now 2 times -4 is -8. And then I want to solve this for b, so I add 8 to both sides. And I get -3 plus 5, or -3 plus 8 is 5. So b is 5. So now I can write my equation. I plug in a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of 5. So the goal of this assignment is simply to be able to write equations for lines in y equals mx plus b form, and I give you various pieces of information. Now, 5, here's the hardest one. It says find the equation of a line that goes through the points -2, -7, and 8, 13. So notice in this one, I did not give you the slope. So you're going to have to find the slope first using our slope equation, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So slope is going to be 13 minus -7 over 8 minus -2. So remember, two negatives make a positive, so it's going to be 13 plus 7 is 20. And again, two negatives make a positive, so 8 plus 2 is 10. 20 divided by 10 is just 2. So that is my slope, or my m. So now I can go back to my equation, plug in the slope I just found, that's my m. Neither of these points is the y-intercept, so I need to solve for that. And now I have to plug in an x and a y. You have two choices this time. You can plug in this point, or you can plug in this point. My recommendation is you plug in the easiest of the two, and I think it's easier to plug in points that are positive than points that are negative. But it doesn't matter. You can plug in either one. So let's plug in the second one since it's all positive. So the 8 isn't x. Remember, the first number is an x, so that goes here. And the 13 is the y, that goes here. So 2 times 8 is 16. Then I subtract 16 from both sides. I get b is negative 3. So now I have the slope and the y-intercept together, so I can write my equation. So it'll be y equals 2x minus 3. So that one requires a lot of work. I have to find the slope first, then you have to write the equation and plug in the slope, choose a point, choose the easy one, plug it in for x and y, solve for b, and then at the end you have to write the whole equation. Now, one more problem at the end. This is a challenge problem. It says, find the equation of a line that is perpendicular to y equals 1/2 x plus 3 and goes through the point 4, 1. Now, this is a challenge because of the word perpendicular. Okay? The slope of the equation they gave me was 1/2. I don't know if you remember this from geometry, but for a slope perpendicular to that, you flip it over and make it negative. So I flip 1/2 becomes 2/1, and I make it negative. So that is my slope. So now I have this much of the equation, because I have my slope is -2, because I flip it and make it negative. And then I need the y-intercept. They gave me a point, but it's not the y-intercept. So I have to plug in the 1 for an x, and it's a 4 for the x, because that's the x, and then a 1 for the y. And then I solve this. So it's -8 plus b, add 8 to both sides. I get b is 9. So my equation is y equals -2x plus 9. So the trick there was knowing that when something's perpendicular to something else, you just flip the slope over and make it negative. That's a geometry review. If I ever asked you to do this on a test or a quiz, it would be for extra credit. But I just wanted to show you that.